You just inherited a brokerage account and you're maybe asking yourself a lot of questions. What we're going to talk about today is what you need to know about this inheritance you just received and the decisions that you need to consider making about it. Hello, I'm John Vandergriff. I'm one of the owners and the wealth planning team lead here at Brokerage Wealth Planners, where we help people create plans for their retirement. And sometimes those plans involve money that they've inherited and decisions that they need to make. And so we're going to look at that today, specifically with brokerage accounts. And so as we look at this, there are different rules depending on the tax qualification of the money that you're inheriting. So what we're assuming with the term brokerage account is that the type of money here is a taxable brokerage account. Another name for that would be non-qualified, which means not qualified for tax deferral. So it is something where the original owner of this account was paying taxes on dividends and interest, any capital gains that were accumulated during the year, and maybe pushing some of those gains through the year. So we're going to look at the tax impact of these positions and really, what you're set for. So the first question that you need to ask is what type of investment is inside of this brokerage account? So as we look at this, the two main categories here that I'm going to look at are going to be market traded securities. So again, as we look at this is going to consider stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, all of the things that are publicly traded, even bank accounts, CDs. You're going to have a different tax structure with those versus money that could be a brokerage account inside of an annuity position. So again, it doesn't matter what type of annuity it is, it will have a different tax structure than any of these market traded accounts. So as we look at this, the first thing that we have to consider is what is still in effect today, known as a stepped up cost basis. And so this is going to apply to, going back to our chart here, all of these market traded securities as we see them today are going to be exposed and benefiting from a stepped up cost basis. This also will go toward land or property that you inherit today. Has a very similar concept to this, so we need to know what that is and what type of benefits that provides. So I'm going to give you a very simple example. This holds true whether it's a stock, a piece of land, mutual fund. So let's say that the position that this person bought initially was worth $10,000, and that $10,000 investment up until the time that they passed away had accumulated to now $100,000. So again, very good return on that investment over time, 10x return as we look at it. So this $10,000, you would assume if this person sold that investment before they died, you have a difference here of $90,000 that if they held this for a year or longer would be exposed to capital gain taxes. So again, whether it's a piece of property, stock position, same type of situation, as long as you've held it over a year, you are able to get long-term capital gains, which are going to get a different tax treatment than short-term capital gains or ordinary income rates. So as we look at this, this is if the person passes away or liquidates this before they pass away. If they didn't do that, and let's say the date of death value of this account is $100,000, you inherit this, what happens is the date of death value is going to transition to you, and now your basis number on this account is $100,000. Okay, so if you immediately sell it upon transfer, there is not a taxable gain associated with this. If, let's say, you waited a few days and this account got up to $105,000, you would not be paying the difference between the $10K and the $105. You would just be paying the difference here of $5,000. Okay, so that's how stepped up cost basis works for market traded securities. Now, when we look at this, the other side of it is not as advantageous when it comes to annuity positions. They do not benefit, and I'll do it on this page, they do not benefit from a stepped up cost basis because the way that annuities grow is tax deferred. So you've got your cost basis amount. Anything that it grows on top of it is going to be ordinary income taxable, and those taxes will be able to come to you in one of two ways. So again, they're either going to pay you a lump sum based on your portion of the proceeds as a beneficiary, and that lump sum will be some parts cost basis, which is the initial investment, and then some parts taxable gain. And so that'll be owed, in the tax year in which you receive those funds. Now, the other option, and this is limited to some companies, so don't assume this for everybody, is you can have what's called a non-qualified stretch, which basically allows you to take a portion of money out of the annuity position, and that portion is going to be split based on the ratio of cost basis versus taxable money. Now, if you say, John, that sounds way too complicated, we can walk you through this, okay? But not a lot of companies will do a non-qualified stretch payment. This would be the safe assumption if you're inheriting annuity assets. And again, just knowing that some part of this will not be taxable, some part of it will be ordinary income taxable when you receive it. So it does matter what kind of investment it is inside of this brokerage account to see what the immediate tax relationship is. We also need to examine that even though we're getting a stepped up cost basis, we could have a situation where estate or inheritance taxes come into play, even though we're not paying the difference between the original investor's buy-in to the investment versus the date of death value. The total of those assets could be enough to where you have an estate tax that's owed on that. So as we look at this, certain states will have their own estate taxes. So again, for your individual state, you'll need to look at that. I'm not putting this because we're in Tennessee. We do not have an estate tax. So one less thing for us to plan for or consider. From a federal level, you have a estate tax threshold of $13,610,000 based on the 2024 tax year. That is per person. So again, if you do some estate planning work, you can essentially double that for the estate value, which again, will not be a problem for most people, okay? And if it is a problem for you, you're probably already aware of this, but sometimes people ask me a question about estate taxes. We just need to know that that may not add up from a federal level for a lot of people. State level, it could. So you need to understand the differences there because estate taxes can be a burdensome thing because basically whatever goes above that total does not matter the tax qualification. Even a Roth account that's growing tax-free, 40% of that value is going to be paid out to the government in taxes. And again, with estate taxes, what we have is the current environment that we're in is set the way it is, adjusted for inflation until 2026. Those numbers will essentially cut in half in 2026 if no rule changes happen, and also that 40% will increase to 45%. So not telling anybody out there to make sure you die before 2026 by any means. We just need to understand the impacts to our money and see if we can strategically plan ways to minimize this if this is a situation that you fall into. So again, it may not be a lot of people, but we need to understand the impacts of these different types of positions. So as we make this transition over, what we need to understand is two questions. Once we understand the tax nature of this, let's say we get into a situation where we've received stepped up cost basis, we do not have estate or inheritance taxes, we need to ask two questions. How should or do I need to take out from this account? But then also, how should I look at investing this money? This will be something that every one of you that watch this will have a different answer to depending on the use case of these funds. Because as we look at this, with this being brokerage funds, when you receive them, maybe it's cashed out, you may receive this as a lump of cash. And so that may impact you taking this money, paying down on a mortgage. It may go into paying off other debts that you have, or you may be in a position where you need to decide what split this needs to have between areas that are more growth oriented from investments that put a premium on access potential, or investments that provide more protection. And again, there's not one cookie cutter way to do this. You know, if you're in a position where you want to make sure that that money is accessible for a large purchase that you have, bigger ticket items, you may need to tend to have a majority of this or a large portion in the access bucket. If you're wanting to use this to bolster maybe your retirement and have the ability to draw a consistent basis off of this, maybe you need to have it more protection oriented, or maybe you're a younger person as you receive this. You don't necessarily want to make a decision on this now. You want this to be something that can grow for your future, obviously having a majority here. So it's really important to make sure we're making a connection between the use case of this money and also the investment types that we need to consider. And again, we separate the investment world between these buckets. We go in great detail to see what are the type of positions that fit here and really make sure that we're making a good decision that's informed, not just with the way that we invest, but as you look at your life, you need to make sure that you're breaking things down. And this doesn't have to be just a retirement conversation. You need to make sure you understand the goals and objectives that you have as an individual, how that impacts the income that you have, or maybe some of that money coming out to savings, the way you need to invest it, tax ramifications, impacts on healthcare, and then family legacy. All these things are going to be intertwined with each other when it comes to the planning decisions that you need to make. And that's why it makes sense to sit down and develop a plan, whether these inherited funds are all that you have or they're coming into the pot with other savings that you have. You need to make sure that these things are working well together and you're considering all aspects of what's touching your life financially. So as we look at this, if you don't feel like you've been able to benefit from a conversation like this is something we do every day. And so we would love to sit down with you and see if the way that we do planning is a match for you and maybe the inherited money that you have or the bigger picture as a whole. So you'll see a link below this video. I would encourage you to click that link so that you can get on our calendar. We can sit down together and see what type of things we could work out, helping you make decisions, considering the things that are going to impact you, but also see if there's a way for us to provide value to you long term. If you do have questions about this, by all means, leave some comments below our video here. We'll get back to you with answers. And more than anything, we appreciate your time. Hope you subscribe to this. Maybe share it with somebody that you know has inherited accounts. And we look forward to giving you content like this in the future.